Hello, my name is Bakwa Ambianda, and I'm welcoming you to an interview with Rudolph from Zimbabwe. Rudolph is one of the selected 2015 Mandela Washington Fellows candidate. It's a program of Young African Leaders Initiative, a signature program of President Barack Obama. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, can you tell us what you do back in Africa that gets you selected for such a huge program?
Wow, that's a big question. What I do is a couple of things. I run an entrepreneurial enterprise innovation hub in Harare, which is the capital of Zimbabwe. And that hub focuses on giving skills and training as well as a network for young and aspiring entrepreneurs, whether they're just starting out or whether they're established and they're trying to accelerate their businesses. And that's predominantly what I do. But I'm also an entrepreneur, so I have businesses of my own that I run as well, in which I'm aiming to try and stimulate our private sector in Zimbabwe.
That sounds really good. I'm a young guy from Africa and I've spoken to a lot of young people from Africa, and one great concern that they have is the fact that they believe that great entrepreneurs started big. Great entrepreneurs started with connections, with great families. So how did you get started?
With an idea, and I think an idea born out of seeing a situation that wasn't great and wanting to change that situation and make a difference, and seeing a business opportunity within that.
So did you have some mentors, or do you have some role models that you had to look up to?
Yes. I think my greatest role models are my parents. My father is an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. He's run his own legal practice for over 20 years. It's almost 27 years. My mother also has done various things, run various types of businesses. They're both very philanthropic. They've been in part of Rotary for as long as I can remember, and everything they do, everything they approach is, there's an issue, there's a problem. How can we solve it? How can we be a better citizen and help in our community, in our environment, and also at the same time, how can we be savvy so that we're able to make an income and look after our families? And I think they're my greatest inspiration.
That is really great. So on my own personal end, I've learned that nobody in this world can survive without having a mentor. If you try not to go to somewhere, you need those kind of role models. Take for example, Michael Jordan had Phil Jackson, Tiger Woods. Anytime you see him miss the ball, he always look on the right because he looks at his mentor. So you were fortunate to have a mentor and a role model. What advice do you have for young people who are growing up and they don't have those people? They don't have that opportunity to have somebody look at them and say, I believe in you. You can do this. You can go get this. What advice do you have for them?
Well, certainly one of the reasons why we started Stimulus was to answer that issue of young people living or growing without proper role models. And our mentorship program is one of our flagship programs at Stimulus, and it's really designed in two ways. One, for a peer, to have that peer mentorship, to have someone who's cheerleading with you and who's going through the same things, who can share experiences. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we have senior established and seasoned business people who are able to also come in and give the young people support, advice, and being in an environment like that, I think, is critical when you're starting out and when you're trying to build and develop yourself, particularly in Africa, where it's more about who you know than what you can do exactly. So if you can be in a hub environment, in an ecosystem that is supporting entrepreneurship, that is prepared to support you, champion you, connect you to the right people, that gives you that step that you need. Absolutely.
That's really good. See, I learned this from my own mentor. My mentor is Les Brown. He's one of the biggest motivational speakers. And he said, as a young leader or a young entrepreneur, you need to create what they call collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships. And I feel a lot of young Africans are lacking that. Because my mother raised me up to understand that if you run around with 9 broke people, you will become number 10. So young people need to raise up the game, raise their relationship. So what do you have in terms of young people who hang around a lot with negative people, who hang around with people who tell them, you can't do this, you don't have a lot of money, you can't travel to this country, you can't be part of YALI program, you won't make it, they won't select you, your idea is not right. What do you have to say to those young people?
Run as fast as you can away from people like that. I think one thing that everyone can afford is to surround themselves with people who will encourage them. And where you find yourself in an environment where people are discouraging you or where people are reinforcing your fears, you need to run out of there and you need to go and be around people who will support you. Find an ecosystem, find even one friend, which is why we do the peer coaching system, because if you have one friend who's going on the same path as you, that is enough to help you have that courage, so that you know you've always got one person you can call and say, hey, today I feel really discouraged, I feel down, or my mother said that I wasn't doing well, or my cousin or my friend, and that person will say, hey, but you know what, the road is long, but we're traveling together, we're growing together, let's keep going. And that keeps you focused and gives you the drive to keep going from day to day. So really, it's, pick wisely when you're dealing with friends, definitely.
That really sounds good. That boils down to one of my philosophy that says, let go or be dragged. So you either let go of some relationships or they'll drag you. But there's some young people out there, especially in Africa, that have ideas. They have the great ideas. Maybe their school doesn't teach them, should give them machines, but doesn't teach them how to create the machines. Give them different things, but not the resources. But a lot of them stop in the fact that there is low capital for them to start. What do you have with those to tell those young people who have great ideas, but they don't get started because of finance?
You don't need money to start a great idea. You don't need money to get up out of your bed in the morning and begin. And every step that you take towards achieving your dream, it builds you up. And as you're taking those steps, whatever they are, eventually you'll get where you're going. So for someone who's out there, who's thinking about starting a business, or who has an idea and they think, oh, if I only had money. But you may not have money, but you may have a smartphone. Sell your smartphone, get a cheap phone, invest your own money. What are you willing to sacrifice to see your dreams realized? Look at that. And if you're not willing to sacrifice anything, maybe it's not that great an idea, or maybe you're not an entrepreneur. But if you look around and look at yourself and say, hey, I've got 10 pairs of shoes. If I sold 5, I could get the initial $10 I need to make the first step. And as you are doing things, people notice. And when you've got proof of concept, when you've proven that your idea can actually turn into something, people will support you, they'll back you, and money and support and everything else will follow. But you first need to be the first person to invest in your idea. So that is really what I'd encourage.
I really love that. That resonated with me a lot, because I used to have that problem back in my days when I started having this mindset of being an entrepreneur. But there is something that concerns Africa. There's something that hindered the development in fact of the lack of energy, or the lack of solar light system, electricity. Do that stop you guys from running your businesses in Africa and doing different things? And how are you managing with such a lack of electricity?
Energy poverty is a very big problem across Africa, as you know, and I think those who survive or who do best are creative, and you really need to be creative. I'm a great believer in indigenous innovation, so where many will say, get a machine from the West or from China, and that machine will make your business happen. I say, well, if you don't have power or access to money to buy that machine, let's look back and see what our forefathers did. Let's learn the lessons from our history of how they dyed clothes before machines, before importing various things. Let's learn those techniques and find low-tech ways to produce. Yes, it'll be small quantities. Yes, it may not be consistent in quality because it's not machine made, but it's a start. And as you build up from that perspective, you could actually make product that you can sell and buy yourself a solar panel and use that solar panel to power a bigger operation, and you then grow. So really it's about finding ways, find a way around, you know, your hindrance. Don't let your hindrance stop you.
Oh wow, that is like what they say. If you hit the door, it doesn't open. You go through the window.
Absolutely.
You find a way through the ceiling, but always try to get your way in there.
Exactly.
People would love to know what have been some of your challenges. What are some of the obstacles that you have faced as an entrepreneur from Africa? Can you share that with us?
Definitely, some of the challenges are network, knowing the right people to open the right doors. At times that's been a challenge. The challenges, as you've mentioned, issues with infrastructure, power issue, all of those, the general problems that you hear of. Obviously the cost of borrowing is very high, so even when you've proved your concept and you're ready to scale up, it's a difficult decision to say, should I go and borrow, at 22% interest and things like that. So there have been challenges like that where you're really having to walk circumspectly and not rush into decision making based on what the circumstances that you see around you, and trying to keep a long-term view in the business that we're developing. So yeah.
Any specific kind of books that you read that helps you get over those kind of challenges?
Wow, books, lots of different books. Not any one in particular, but I do really believe that it's important for every entrepreneur to be well read, in not just in terms of textbooks, but understand the law, understand taxation, understand your obligation in the context of business, but also understand the opportunities. Zimbabwe is part of various trade agreements within Southern Africa and Africa as a whole. Find out what those are for your country and see how your business can benefit from those trade agreements, from being able to maybe export a product at no tax. Be aware, read the newspapers, find out what's going on in the business sector, keep yourself informed. I think that's the main thrust of any sort of development from a reading perspective that I'd encourage any entrepreneur to take.
No, that is really good. I really believe in the power of investing in your mindset. You gotta learn, because we become the product of what comes in us.
Absolutely.
Garbage in, garbage out. See, I used to have a friend of mine when I just came to the United States. He used to tell me he's poor, but I told him, hey, hold on. Poor means passing over opportunities regularly. And he was fascinated with that. So I gave him some strategies and some ideas of how he can turn his passion into a profit. And from there, within 2 years, he was able to make a lot of money for himself. And now he called me one day. Now I make money back home. I want to go back to my country and do some things, but I don't know how. I'm scared that I'm going to lose my money. Now, what do you have to say to those kind of Africans in the diaspora that have a lot of money? They want to go back home and do something, but they're scared of losing their money.
I think definitely the first thing I would say to anyone in the diaspora thinking about doing business in Africa is go home for a while. Reacclimatize yourself with Africa. The Africa you remember, if you've been away for over 5 years, is definitely not the Africa that is there today, regardless of the country. So you may be from Togo, but if you haven't been to Togo for 5 years, you don't understand the business environment now. And going home and actually meeting people, building a network, seeing how things are on the ground is the very first step. And from there, you're able to mitigate in terms of false investments, because you've met people, you understand what the needs are, you can see the gaps and the opportunities in the market. So that is really what I'd encourage as a starting point.
That is really great. I really love that. I myself, I need to take a visit back home, because there's a lot of things that we're planning to implement in Africa, and I feel like things are really changing, the resourcefulness and different things. But my question now is, in terms of the resources, in terms of the platforms, now you have a great platform that everybody can understand what you're trying to do. Some people are not taking advantage of those kind of platforms. For example, you can mention this program is great, it's all around the world, but there are some young Africans who don't know. Now, in terms of those people growing up like in the villages, and they lack a lot, what do you have to say to those people in the villages that have those ideas, but the platforms are not there? How can they tap into their potentials while in such areas?
It is a great challenge when you think particularly about rural populations that don't have access. With the global world, however, and with Africa growing in terms of access to the internet via mobile, I would encourage anyone, even young people in the rural areas, do whatever you can do, invest in a mobile phone, get yourself connected to the world through your mobile phone, and be able from there to start trying to find people you can connect with. Our network at Stimulus has a mobile platform which aims to help people who are not necessarily in the city but need the information. So get yourself a phone, invest in a phone, find a way, and from that point you'll be able to connect and gain information, gain knowledge, find out about opportunities that can then take you the next step.
Wow, that is great. Now, there are a lot of people out there who are looking for some of those things that you do to support you, to be part of your program, to recommend you to a lot of people. How can you tell viewers how to plug into your program, how to support you, or what are the next steps that you're doing in terms of taking your business again to the next level?
How people can plug in, you can go to our website, www.stimulus.co.zw, and fill in the contact us form and let us know who you are, what you want to do, or you can email us at info@stimulus.co.zw. In terms of our next steps, we actually have a real passion for ensuring as many people as possible can get access to information, because we believe that information is power, and the more information you have, the more you're able to build yourself, the more you're able to access opportunities and scale your ideas and turn them into businesses. So we're actually going to be launching a mobile platform towards the end of the year, which is directed at women in particular, because women have less access to information certainly in Zimbabwe, but the information then is also useful for men. And our goal with that project is really to try and reach everyone. So when I say a person in the rural areas should try and get a phone, even a basic phone will be able to access that platform, because we'll have a mobile application but a USSD platform as well. So even with a basic non-smartphone, you'll be able to access information. And I think that's the key, being able to give people information. And if anyone has ways that they can help us, give more information to a wider demographic, we would love to participate, to partner rather with people like that.
That sounds really good. Now, viewers, you have been watching a young entrepreneur from Africa that decided that I'm not going to work for a living, but I'm going to live my making. She's in the United States of America right now, getting more information, learning, getting trainings to go back and take her business into the next level. You've heard how you can connect, how you can support, and how you can plug into her system. I want to really thank you for being who you are, for being in this world. You represent one out of millions of young people from Africa that have decided that I'm gonna live my making. And for who you are, the world is a better place because you showed up. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.